Okay. Hey, welcome to the Iron Bicycle Training Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Bird, and it is an absolute pleasure to have a guy I met on a business coaching call. And I looked up and I saw, well, is that Hulk Hogan? What are those guns on that screen across from me? Because they were so big. And I thought, dang, who is that? And anyways, we connected through business. And Rob Pemelton, it is a pleasure to have you on. Welcome.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here, man. I'm just excited, Brian.
Well, it's when you look across the screen, you meet, business mastermind groups. We were on the Smashworks one Saturday morning, and I looked across the screen, and some people you have a connection with, some you don't. And I had messaged Rob. I said, "Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the group." And I think you read my bio, and I read yours. And of course, this podcast exists to help people in their walk with God, repair their union with God. And you reached out, and we became we talked a few times on the phone, and I thought, man, what a good dude. There's just something redemptive about Rob. And you started to share your story over time when we were figuring out software and complaining and grumbling a little bit and getting our
Yeah.
mindset right. and and the story started to come out. And Rob, you have just a fantastic comeback story. You're working all these jobs, and you're launching things and helping people out. But before we get into that, I was going to say, who is Rob today? Who's for our listeners? Who is Rob?
I get that question, and it's so hard for me to answer. Who is Rob? It's like, well, I'm a man of God now. You know what I'm saying? I am. It's hard. I don't know how to answer that. I really don't. I'm sorry. It's just when you ask me who I am, it's like I do know who I am in a sense, but it kind of that question just always throws me off. You
Yeah.
know, I'm a guy who I care about other people now. Before I didn't. I care about how they feel. I want to wish people a good day when I see them. I want to let them know that I see them and that I appreciate them being alive and being here. We're all human beings, and since I got born again, since I was saved, I've become a whole different person.
Mm.
So I'm still really searching exactly who I am, but that's just a hard question for me to answer, Brian. I'm sorry, man. I just
No. You said something key, Rob. You said, I want to see them. I want to see people. And you're a different man today than you were before. Tell us about where the guy today who has a care, who wants to see people, came from a person who was not. Take us back. Tell us a little bit about your story that got you to today. Who were you?
I was very narcissistic. I was all about me. It was all about me. And I kind of knew it, but I couldn't help myself. I was just so narcissistic. I really didn't have any true friends. Even as a kid, I spent a lot of my time alone. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. One kid told me a long time ago, "You're just telling me what I want to hear." And I couldn't figure that out.
Oh,
But then I
wow.
did. I figured it out. I just told people what they wanted to hear. I bullshitted my way through everything. I was horrible at school. I was horrible at friendships. I was very narcissistic even as a kid. You
Wow.
know, and since I got born again, I mean, I could. My story is so complicated. I've done all kinds of things, but since I got born again, I've changed. Something changed in me,
Yeah.
where I actually can feel. I feel a love for people, and I can see people a sadness in their face, and I just, hey, how you doing today? And I like to cheer people up. I make them smile if I can, and it just like one of the things I said on one of my videos was, you want to change your day, you want to make your day better. Pay 5 people a legitimate compliment,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
just say hi to them. You
Yeah.
know.
So when you I appreciate that because I've been encouraged by you on our phone calls, and I feel that as well. And it's one of the great things we get to do in life is to help serve people, but and give them a compliment, especially in today's today where people are encouraged to cut people down and find excuses and make yourself feel better by making somebody else, by tearing somebody else down. And that's just not the way. And it sounds like you've had a great transformation growing up, you know, you use the word narcissist, and people don't usually self-diagnose as a narcissist unless they've gone on a journey and they've become aware and they start to examine and change. And for anybody I know that's changed, it has a comeback story. I call they've done a lot of work to examine where they come from, who they are, and who they want to be. And I don't trust any coaches out there who haven't done the work. They haven't done a journey. They looked at their past and decided they want to change. Rob, tell us about your past. Tell us about how you got started. I mean, this camera doesn't do it justice, but I know how old you are, and I know how much muscle you got in that frame. You've done a lot of work physically, and obviously you've done a lot of work spiritually. Where did you start physically in your journey, and yeah, how did you get into lifting weights and adding muscle and encouraging coaching people? Where'd that come from?
Well, it basically started in high school when I started working out with a friend of mine. His name's David Swander. He's an IFBB pro. His wife's an IFBB pro. He trains IFBB pros.
So hang on for the listeners. Tell us first, define what's an IBFF pro.
IFBB Pro is an International Federation of Bodybuilders. That is like you got your card now. Now you can go compete in these big shows like the Arnold Classic. You can go if you make it to that. But
Okay.
now you're sanctioned to go compete in these events.
Okay.
The Olympia and so forth.
So these are the top of the top.
Elite,
These are the pro bodybuilders, top in the world.
Right.
Okay. So you start training with them. What happens?
We started training in high school. He had his own gym in his high school in his two-car garage. His dad was the vice principal. So we would skip school and go work out. Okay. I was jacked in high school. I was a surfer, I was jacked. But then you get out of it. I got out of it. I went through my different phases, skinny, fat, all that stuff. As an older adult, as I got older,
yeah,
I didn't work out. I became fat. I was out of shape. At one point, I was very skinny because I was doing drugs and drinking all the time. I mean, constantly. So I was so skinny. I have a comparison photo of me now versus back then. But right before I started to get where I am at now, that was like 7 years ago.
Okay.
And I started working out at Anytime Fitness in Colorado. I was on the road. And I kept it up. The journey was slow because I would sporadically work out here and there until I developed this habit to where now it's like people do drugs, I do gym.
Yeah.
I love that. Have to go to the gym.
I love that.
And that's where it's at now.
So you're a skinny kid you had a lot. It's interesting that people who influence us, and right before you even got into who you are today, you were exposed to some of a guy who was going to be a pro bodybuilder, like top of the league. What at the time you probably didn't know. What'd you learn from those guys? From him? I mean, he's got a garage and weight room in his house. Number one, that's different than most people. But what did you pull away from starting to learn how to lift weights and build and develop your body from a guy who was eventually going to be a pro?
That's a great question. And I tell you, I was just thinking about that the other day.
Yeah.
They said some of the things that you hear a lot of these top of the line, top notch coaches say, when you don't feel like it's when you need to do it. He would tell me that in high school. Man, I don't feel like working out today. Well, that's when you need to work out, dude. I'm sick. Well, that's when you need to work out. And it always pushed me. Never miss. The never miss part. He was saying what these guys are saying today back then as a high school student.
Wow.
And that really, he's an amazing human being, man. But he really pushed me. And those words still echo in my head today, but I hear it from other people, but it doesn't mean near as much as when I heard it from a high school kid.
Yeah.
Telling me the same exact thing that these guys that are making $2 million a month coaching people are saying the same thing that he said back when he was in high school. So I was like, wow, that just really, really impressed me, and it stuck with me, man. And now the instant gratification thing is a killer. I don't know how I jumped off into that thing, boy. But I tell you what, we'll get into that in a minute. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's what I got from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, at some point, you're around some people that are telling you to never miss. That's a big deal for a 16-year-old who didn't know any better. That's getting influenced the right way. But at some point, you took a turn and got away from it. What happened? What'd you get into? And did you go to college? Did you? I mean, where did the decision start going away from the gym?
I didn't go to college at at this time. I didn't.
Hmm.
Um, let's just go back to 11th grade when I dropped out of school because I was going to Mexico surfing and staying for 3 months and missing 3 months of school. Then I'd
Okay.
go back. I just gave up. I gave up.
So,
And
were you in San Diego at the time, going across the border pretty quick, or flying down, driving
Texas,
down? Texas.
Texas, we would drive from Texas and drive all the way through the South Texas border and down all the way to the Pacific coast to Puerto Escondido and San Blas and La Ticla and these
Wow.
places and go surfing over there. And I was
Wow.
gone for 3 months at a time.
3 months. Now, how you're surfing, you're gone 3 months. Where's the parents? Where's anybody that,
My
you know,
parents were divorced. My
okay.
dad was, I show up 3 months later. Where you been? Kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I work in the cotton field. I make about $300 to $400, and I'm gone.
So cotton fields of South Texas. You're picking
Yeah,
Cotton. Are you running machinery? How's that work?
I'm cleaning the machines out with this hook. Because they pick the cotton. I cut to clean them out, and then I ran a module builder, which built the big square bales.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I ran one of those.
And this is probably what, in the late '80s, early '90s, where you're picking cotton.
Early '80s.
Early '80s. Now the
Yeah, late
reason,
'70s, early '80s.
I also grew up in a farming background and took care of pigs. And we would farrow pigs, we would sort them, we would get them ready for market. And if anybody knows, in agriculture, it's long hours. I don't think child labor laws really applied to agriculture, at least in
No,
Iowa where I grew up. They had exemptions, and you just worked till you just dropped, sun up, sun down, and then you lifted weights in Iowa. but but any kid, any guy I know that comes from an agricultural background develops a work ethic, and it kind of goes hand in hand with build muscle. But the foundations you learn, I mean, long hours. And who wants to carry a hook and clean out a cotton machine harvester the rest of your life? I mean, it's hard work. So you're cleaning, you're doing this, you're doing cotton, and you said, "Hey, I'm going surfing." How'd you spend 3 months in Mexico as a teenager who should have been in high school surfing? I mean, tell us about that.
well, I stayed in a little hut, and $300 would take you a long way down in Mexico. It was very primitive. I mean, we had a record player, and it was a 145 record. It was the Village People, Macho Man, and YMCA, and it was played off of a car battery. And the old lady that would make us food under a lantern with bugs flying everywhere would put that car battery on and put Macho Man. We'd hear that. We'd be,
And so here you are listening to the Village People. You're surfing. You're living on $300 a month for 3 months. Why come back? It sounds, for a high schooler, early teen. I mean, it sounds wonderful.
Well, you could
Simple.
only stay so long. It was
Okay.
dangerous. It was
Yeah.
it was dangerous there.
Tell
My
us
friend
about it.
Alan
What
Story was killed down there.
really?
Yeah, they actually killed him down there. Of course, Alan was crazy. Alan he didn't care, but he just stayed down there permanently. He ended up dying down there. They
Oh.
had, they had wars down there. I mean, there was like villages would have wars. It was crazy back then.
Now, is this mostly the drug cartel and a lot of drugs that were moving through there? Is that where the violence was coming from? And how did you guys avoid it? Were you just kind of hanging out and hiding, or what? Tell us about it.
I think it was up in the mountains, so I think it was more like this, paramilitary type groups coming in to try to take over, and
Okay.
the villagers fighting back and stuff. It's like, nah, we stayed down below on the coast, but up in the
Okay.
mountains is where all this stuff was happening.
Yeah.
But that's where you would go to get your weed. Is you'd go up to the mountains and get a big old grocery bag full of weed for a couple of bucks.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's
So
that's what we did.
young kid, surfer, cheap weed, and this weed's a little bit different in the 80s than it is
Oh
now.
yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but, you got drugs, you got surfing, you got cheap food, people making you food. Um, where'd you go from there? You're starting to use a little bit, and then you come back to the States. What happens?
Uh, well, when I got back, I found a job in construction, doing labor work. Um, I would stay here and stay. I never had a real permanent residence. My parents kicked me out of the house so many times.
Okay.
My dad did. He got married to some other woman. She hated my guts.
Oh
I didn't
boy.
like her either. So I was bouncing around from friend's house to friend's house. Even in high school, I was doing that.
Yeah.
So I never really had a stable home life, after like age 13. But I became an alcoholic, man. I at early age, I was drinking beer at 9, 10 years old.
Oof.
You sneak a sip of your dad's beer. Well, I
Yeah.
wasn't sneaking sips. I was sneaking whole beers and shit, drinking vodka with lemon juice in it and shit. I mean, I was just at an
Oof.
early age. So
Yeah.
I became a bad alcoholic throughout my life.
Wow. So there's the pain, and then there's the medication, and not it sounds like hey, you started to deal with addiction, started to deal with alcohol, drugs. What as you went through that, um, are you training still? And
No,
no training.
no.
You're off. Yeah.
Once in a while, like I would run a lot because I
Okay.
was. This is when I was preparing to go to the army.
Oh, you're
Okay,
okay. So
huh?
so you're set. You have a goal to go to the army now.
Yeah, because I had no place else to go.
Yeah.
I had no education. I had nothing, right? So I said, well, here's my plan. I'm going to join the reserves, which they wouldn't let you join the active military unless you passed your GED. But I was too stupid to do that. I failed that miserably. I had no skills whatsoever, man.
Wow.
I was a good fighter. That was it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. So I went to the army.
What
And
where at? Did you go to San Diego or where's
Fort
your?
Leonard Wood, Missouri. I went in as an
Okay.
engineer. I learned how to operate cranes and stuff like that, which I never ever used. I
Wow.
never used, but it taught me some things. Taught me work ethic. Taught me how to learn again because you had to study. You had to read. I remember failing a test, thinking this is it. I started crying, thinking I am a loser, man. And I'm in the army. I'm crying over this freaking test because I was so frustrated that I was that dumb.
Yeah.
And I guess the guy felt sorry for me and it gave me that extra point that I needed and passed me. All right.
So no high school education. You're persevering. You go to the army. You get in the engineers group, and now you're learning how to run cranes and construction.
Yeah, and I never used it. When I got out. I got back to going being a laborer again.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, my whole life, dude. I never really applied myself. I didn't know how.
Yeah.
I was lost. I had no path, nothing. I was all over the place, dude. ADD. I would start something. I start 15 things and never finish one of them.
Wow.
Ever.
Wow.
And I have to catch myself because I get like that to this day still, but I
Sure.
catch myself,
You
you
know
know.
that's an interesting topic. Two things. One is we know as coaches, as we both have coached some people, and are developing that type of business, is that a lot of times we'll tell our clients, you're gonna become who you hang out with. Who's the 5 people that you hang out with the most, and that's who you become.
That's
And
so
it's like
true.
99% true
Oh,
for
yeah.
those of you listening. So take a look around your circle, and if you need to tighten it up, tighten it up. But at that time in your life, there's no circle, is there? There's no. I mean, you got the army. Who's
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
Well, I'm out by now because I
Okay.
only went to basic because this was reserves. I
Okay.
didn't even last in reserves because I couldn't make it to the meetings. Like one of my friends took my freaking boots and wore them out because he thought they were cool, and he was gone, and I had no boots to go to my weekend meeting, so they kicked me out of that. Right? I mean, just total loser. I was like,
So a friend, one of your 5 steals your boots and takes off them. You have no boots. And you can't make it. You can't even walk. You don't have any shoes. I mean, that's for those of you wondering, you know, I got it tough. I hear a lot of the younger generation saying, "Oh, I have it so tough. I can't make it to work because my car doesn't turn on, or the heater broke in my house, or we all experience a level of adversity. And Rob, what I love about your story is there's plenty of adversity that you can talk about that you've overcome. How did you go from the army? Someone's stealing your boots. Then what happens? Where do you go next? Where's your five? Who's influencing you, and where does it take you?
Okay, I just want to say this real quick. A lot of my adversity, okay, was self-made. Okay, this is what happens. People create this adversity because that gives them a reason to quit.
Mm,
Okay, so if you quit, you can't fail, right? You just quit. Man, I didn't fail. I just quit. It was so easy for me to quit everything. I
yes.
accomplished nothing. I didn't finish anything. I quit, and I had really no five. I had like two, and they were all horrible influences. You know, they were alcoholics. One was living with his brother-in-law who had a lot of money. They had a cattle ranch, so he got all the benefits of the nice dually truck and the free gas, and they'd give him spending money, and so he had all this stuff, right, and a place to
Right.
live. And I was his flunky, who rode around with him and kind of mooched off of him because I had nothing,
Right.
But to this day, that guy's a crackhead, still
Wow.
living in a motorhome that doesn't run. He won't change his ways, and he's 60. This was back then when I was 17, and he's
Wow.
still there. But it gives people a reason to fail, to quit. So I hope that answers your question. I kind of
It
go off on a
does.
tangent, man. I go off.
You're
I lose
good.
it sometimes.
So Rob, I appreciate that self awareness. It makes me start to think who is in my five, who's around me, and where are they now? And at some point, as you mature, as you go down that journey, you got to start cutting people off. You gotta eliminate these guys who are still in the trailers smoking crack and taking their journey down a path that we ultimately know where it goes. But at some point, you had a usually the guys in my life there have gone through massive levels of adversity, some self-inflicted, as you mentioned, others they had no control over. But there's usually an event. Usually there's some event series of events that lead to a change, to an awareness that you carry today. Tell us about what these series of events happened where you made a change, like where you got off the drugs. Like most people that I know go to AA. They go to I run a nonprofit called Wild Courage where we help them through trauma. But for you, what was that journey like? How did you get? When did you start? Was there a certain person in your life who said, you got to clean this up? You're way better than who inspired, led, influenced. How did you get on the right track?
Okay, so a quick synopsis from way back up until the beginning, and then I will go from there. I was a horrible alcoholic. I would receive PIs. I had 7 DWIs. I
Seven.
was kicked out of every bar in within a 40-mile radius. Literally, I was banned from every bar because of fighting. I get drunk, want to fight, and blah blah blah. It was horrible. Okay, so as an older adult now, I'm 49 years old. I'm wasted. I'm recently divorced. At one time we had a lot of money, and I'm living in a homeless shelter now. I actually living in a warehouse,
Wow.
and I'm eating at Loaves and Fishes. This is after. I was living. We're traveling the life of traveling Acapulco, Mexico, everywhere. And I go from that to living in a freaking warehouse, eating at Loaves and Fishes, a homeless shelter.
Wow.
Okay, so I have a little bit of money because I sold some of my stuff at a swap meet, right? Some of the stuff that I had from my marriage and stuff, and so I had like $300 on me. So what do? I go to the bar. I go buy an 8 ball of cocaine, and I go to the bar, and I am getting shit faced drunk. I convinced this woman who she was alone that I was like the man for her. I was good at that shit, man. I was good at that. Manipulating. I was a manipulating son of a gun. So I convinced her. So she has this brand new Jaguar, beautiful convertible. I'm driving. I tell her I'm shit faced. I don't know how many shots of tequila and beers that I've had. Plus, I've been stuffing coke up my nose all night long, so I'm just like wigging out. So I get in her car and I don't make it a mile down the road, and I gun the accelerator, and a cop pulls in behind me.
Oh boy.
Mind you, I've got 7 DWIs. I haven't been in trouble in over 20 years. I managed to stay out of trouble. Right then and there, I felt the presence of God, dude. Right then and there.
Wow.
That's what changed everything. I looked at her and I said, my life as I know it is over. I'm going to jail.
Wow.
That's it. I said, that they're gonna let you go. They might have to call somebody. Anyways, so my life was over as I knew it. And I looked at the cop when he was arresting me, and I saw this look in his face like, man, I hate doing this to you. And I'm like, dude, you're just doing your job.
Wow.
I need this. This is what I need. I knew it. This is it. I needed this, man. I already knew it was going to happen. God already, he's just like, he put my future in my mind in a flash. I saw how it was going to go.
Yeah.
I knew. It's like, I knew it was going to happen. I was going to go through this fire. I was going to go to prison. I didn't know exactly how it was going to play out. But, I was like, I felt a peace. I had a peace that came over me, man. I was like, okay, thank God this is over. This is finally over.
Wow.
And I'm going to start a whole new life, man. Wow. I was like so excited, dude.
So
Yeah. And I went through all these things, man. I went to county. I was in county for a while, and I had my friends selling stuff. I had a horse ranch. So I had all kinds of implements and tools and stuff. And I had a lot of stuff. So I had my friend Noah selling things for me and putting money on my books so I could get ramen noodles and deodorant and to go to the store and have stuff like that,
Wow.
But I'm in their county, and that was pretty rough. It would get so humid in there, they'd shut the fans off, and it would actually rain inside it was horrible. They had staph infection and all kinds of stuff. I never got sick. I never had any problems. Then I caught chain to Texas Department of Corrections, prison, big boy school.
Okay.
And man, I'm sitting in the holdings. First they strip us down. When we get there, there's guys with shotguns. They get you on the bus. There were shotguns. You're handcuffed, your waist, your feet. It's like, man, I was tripping, dude.
Wow.
I was tripping. But I still wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid. I was just like, oh, wow, this is weird. Keep your mouth shut. The Holy Spirit kept saying, keep your mouth shut. Don't say nothing. Don't look nobody in the eye.
Oof.
Just do your thing. So anyways, I get there. They strip us down completely naked at the prison. Completely naked, dude. And there's female guards checking us out, screaming at us and all this stuff. It's like they're degrading the heck out of you. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. Then they put us into what's called the chicken coop at the Garza West, which is nothing but a big building with no windows in it. It's hot in there. It's 110 degrees in there. No fans. Well, there's 3 cells in here, right? 6 guys per cell. Okay, and there's 1 fan. Well, who gets that fan? The biggest dude in that cell gets the fan, and he points it right at him on the lower bunk, and none of us have a fan. And you can't do anything about it.
Now, are you big as you are today? Are you muscled out? No, you're skinny.
No. Yeah, I'm thin because I had been doing a lot of drugs, and
yeah.
I still, you could kind of look at me and say you probably didn't want to mess with the dude if you didn't have to.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it was just Holy Spirit protecting me, but nobody messed with me. I was skinny though, not like I am now.
So you get pulled over by this cop back in the day, and you knew your life was going to change forever, but you had a peace about it, and you almost were. What I hear, you were relieved that this thing was going to stop and change. I've heard this before from guys who spent some time in prison, is that there was relief because of the drugs, the habits, the lifestyles, and the pressure. When you're in prison, so the Holy Spirit was on, you're walking with God. Was there a chaplain? Was there someone that was helping you in prison? How did you maintain your day-to-day connection with God in a place where they took all your rights away, your dignity, they strip you down, and they have female guards who are, degrading you? Where did you find your sense of worth?
Well, God will send you ministering angels. Okay? So when I was locked up with a former pastor.
Okay.
In one of my cells for like a week. And he had one eye. I remember this dude had one eye. One eye was gouged out. He'd gotten in a fight with somebody. This guy he was one of those tough pastors that fought.
Wow.
But he had a drinking problem. He got himself in trouble, and But anyways, we would read the Bible together. I didn't have any glasses, so I couldn't see because I wear reading glasses even back then, so I couldn't see. So he would read the Bible to me. I'll tell you about Daniel too in a little while. He read the Bible to me every night.
Wow.
But I was a captive audience, and God said, "You will learn. You will learn." And I wanted to. I was thirsty for it. I had to have a Bible. I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and read and read and read and read. But back to your question, God would send you ministering angels. He sent me that guy. He sent me another guy named Cody Shishelsky, who has his own church in Navasota, Texas now.
Okay.
The kid was amazing.
Wow.
But it's like God blessed me with people that would teach me the Bible. We'd be in the Word for 12, 14 hours at a time on the weekends. And then we'd go take a nap, and then we'd get back into it again. Then we'd have a spread. And I'll tell you, but those of you who've been in prison know what a spread is. It's your ramen noodles, and you mix it with tuna fish and mayonnaise and pickles and stuff, and you cook it in a potato chip bag with hot water, and you let it sit, and everybody just takes a bite and starts eating out of it. We did that, and we studied the Word for 14, 15 hours at a time.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Wow. So you have a one-eyed pastor who takes pity and starts reading you the Word because you don't have eyeglasses in there and you need them to read.
God finds a way, dude.
God finds a way. He gets back out. You have another, guy who's going to be a pastor who comes in there and studies with you. What's happening inside? But on the outside, you're what's going on in your heart as you start to study the Word for 14 hours a day. What starts to change? What are you seeing in yourself?
Dude, I'll start crying right now. Sorry.
You're good.
When you know God's with you, nothing else matters, bro. Nothing. It's like, I was so happy because my parents weren't there. God said, I'm your dad. I'm your mom. I'll take care of you. Trust me. And I did. It was so wonderful, bro. It's like, and it still is to this day. I look and I think, thank you, God.
Yeah.
I'm not the best guy in the world. I make mistakes. I curse. I do these things. But God has mercy on me and He loves me. And I know it. And when you know that, when you feel that genuine love that God has for you, man, there's no going back, bro.
Right.
There's no going back. But you can still be a man. You don't have to be the weak individual. No, God doesn't want, well, God wants soldiers with love in their heart. But you can even mess with a soldier with love in his heart so much, and then he's not going to be that friendly guy, and he's going to be God's wrath. Mm-hmm. This is what happens, man. But I tell you, dude, God just blessed me in there, man. He kept me captive, and He held me down, and He said, I'm going to teach you. You need to learn about me. And I'm guilty of this right now. I thank God every day, but I'm not in the Word like I should be every day because, I know that. But things like this reiterate in me that I need to get back to those things. Because when my life starts going a little bit out of control, things aren't going right, what do? I go to the Word. What happens? Boom, I'm back on track again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. I get emotional over this.
No,
I don't care. I don't care. I'll cry, Freddie, but I don't care.
Yeah. Your emotions just reflect how good your heart is, Rob, and I appreciate that. And the authenticity that comes with it is exactly why I asked that question. We want to encourage people's walk with God. And so, there's listeners out there who may be in prison. There's skinny drug addicts out there listening who need encouragement. And one of the purposes of sharing our stories today is to give hope to those who are listening who might have found themselves in this same situation previously or right now. So, Rob, as you have these pastors, you have God taking care of you in prison, guardian angels, ministering angels, as the word likes to say. I heard you say something about the spirit of adoption, is my words. There's a verse that talks about the spirit of adoption that God gives. There you are in a place where they've taken all your freedom away, and you're finding God, and you're transforming. How did you transition out of prison? Where do you go was it unexpected? Were you supposed to be in there a certain length of time and they let you out? Like, what's that story like?
I was sentenced to 5 years. I spent two. I got out on parole because I was very well behaved. I went to all the church meetings. There was a lot of church things. You could 3 times a week, 4 times a week. You could go to a church deal. They had them all the time.
Wow.
Some great, amazing, strong pastors. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. In prison you see a lot of revival, man.
Yeah.
What was the question? I'm sorry, man. I
No,
lost it.
no. Well, I'm going to cut you off right there. The reason I asked a question about transitioning from prison out
Yeah.
was my father uh, was very active for 30 years in the Santa Fe, New Mexico prison ministry. And he would go into prisons his whole life every Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. And he would share his story, and he would love the unlovable. He would go into cells, and just like your one-eyed pastor you had in there helping you, he would help others. And so there's a special place in my heart for prison ministry. It's huge. In my community, we have guys that are in it out here in Idaho, and when you said there's revival in prisons, oh, it's amazing. And so thank you for sharing that, because it's a special place. And some people don't understand that and need to hear that. But prison ministers make a difference. Rob's on here with his stories, but if you're listening and you do prison ministry, we appreciate you, and God
Absolutely.
appreciates you. The Bible talks a lot about where the Spirit of God resides, in the poor, in the weak of spirit, um, and and the widows without husbands. And I am convinced that the Spirit of God resides in prisons. It's tenfold because of the prison ministers out there, guys like you finding themselves transforming. So thank you for sharing that. So the question is, Rob, how do you transition out of prison? How does that go down? Your relationship with God's humming. You're in His Word 14 hours a day, and then you told me you're supposed to be in there for 5 years. All of a sudden, you're a good guy. You get your probation going. 2 years hits, and you're coming out. What's that like for you?
Well, God takes care of everything for me. I literally walk by faith and not by sight. I'm literally walking with my eyes closed and letting God lead me to this day. But what happened was God put me in it's called Christian Family Home. It was a house. It was a two-story home run by a pastor, run by a big church called Baptist Temple uh, in McAllen, Texas.
Okay.
BT Church, BT McAllen. But I went to this Christian family home, and for 3 months, you're not allowed to work. You can walk around the area and stuff like that, but you can't leave anywhere. They got to keep an eye on you.
Okay.
And so I was there, but I was there for 2 years. I'm going to cut real short. I was there for 2 years. That's where I went to college. I went to church 3 times a week.
Wow.
That was mandatory. You had to go to church 3 times a week. But I wanted to go to church 3 times a week. That was
Heck yeah.
different. I wanted to go. And we would help with the food bank, and we do all this stuff. We did a lot of good. But that's where I actually went to college, was when I was there. I got a job washing dishes at a sushi bar at nighttime, and I went to school at South Texas College as combination welding. I got my associate's degree in applied science
Yes.
there. Again, I never really used my welding job, but we'll go back into what it did get me into later on.
Okay.
But I was there for 2 years, and then when I got out of there, I went to work as a superintendent for a
Wow.
construction company.
Wow. So you get out. There's a halfway house. I'm going to call it a halfway house, but this mega.
That's what it was.
Yeah, they're helping you. They're setting up.
Yep.
In McAllen, Texas. If anybody hasn't been there before, it's really known for the border and all the things that come with a border: the drug trade, the legal, the migrant, all the politics that you hear about today. McAllen is kind of one of the nodes of where a lot of this gang violence is happening, and instead you find a halfway house, a church that's helping you, and you go to school. That's wonderful. And you're in your 50s, right?
Yeah. I've turned 50 in prison.
Because I hear a lot of people, some of my clients say, I'm too old. It's too late. My body hurts. I can't change. God's given up on me. There's a lot of narratives that, as coaches, we help to change people's mindsets. And Rob, you're the walking mindset changer for those excuses. I call them those mindsets. I'm too old. Are you kidding me? You're in prison. You come out and you start to go to college in your 50s. Who does that? How did you get inspired to do that? Tell us about that journey.
Well, I really wanted to get into this, but this is where God tests your faith. Sometimes He'll deny you something, right? And then it's like the angel will want to step in. Hey, let's step in. And God's like, no, no. Let's see how He reacts
Mm.
to this. Well, God, I couldn't get in. I was like 80 people on the bottom of the list to get into this class, and I was so distraught. And James Littleton, okay, was another pastor there. He was one of those. He was very humble. I mean, very humble, man. But he knew the word, and he would sit with me and say, "Just trust God. Just trust God." And I'm like, "Oh, I can't trust God. This ain't gonna happen." And I would go into my pity party and stuff.
Yeah.
But then I would like, "Oh, stop. All right, God, I trust you. I'm gonna let it go." Boom. As soon as I did that, guess what? Oh no, I got a letter. I'm number 2 on the list now. I can get in.
Wow.
So yeah, but that's how God worked with me. What he would do is he'd deny me, let me go through my pity party, and then allow me to have it to show
Interesting.
me, hey, look, man, just trust me, and it's going to be okay. If it's my will, you're going to get it. No one can take it away from you.
Yes.
So I ended up getting it. I ended up going into school. You know.
So you're out. You're you're a transformed man. Um, I know you got a son that does some high level training. What happens in your personal life? How does that change?
God restores relationships, brother. Okay. I was estranged from my children because I was in prison. And prior to that, I was so busy being an alcoholic and stuff. I would see my kids, 3 times a year. I would take them on extravagant vacations, on cruises and things like that when I could.
Mm.
Okay. And that was every year we did that. Going cross country family vacations and things. But when I went to prison, and that lack of, especially how young they were,
Yeah.
that time in between, they just forgot me. They didn't really know me anymore. And it's my daughter to this day. My other daughter still has a little bit of issue with me, but she's coming around. That's been years, man, 10 years, and she's still, my other two, they're coming back around. They're good. We've spent a lot of time together. We talk every day, you
Mm.
know. But God restores relationships, and these relationships are being restored in me right now. Um, I mean, I kind of lost it again, dude. I go off and I want to say so much, man.
Yeah. Well,
I
your relation.
apologize.
No, the ones that matter the most are affected the most, by our journey, by our decisions, and for you to come around and say, we're working on them right now. Rob, I know I'm going to reveal your age if that's okay with you.
Yeah, 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 man.
For the listeners, Rob's 62, and God's redeeming your relationships right now. It's important to know because, myself, I lived away from my dad. There's a divorce when I was young, and I didn't live with him in the home. Um, but I'd see him a couple times a year, and it was good. But I knew there was something missing, and he's in his 70s now, and I'm in my late 40s, and it's something about something about the nature of God to redeem our relationships, especially father sons, father daughter, and marriages. And my relationship with my father has never been better, but there's a redeemer who helps us with those relationships, and it's so good to hear your story there, because it's not just about getting out, making money, and getting a new job and getting clean. The relationships are what matter most. Rob, tell us what's frontier about those. When you're changing, in your story, what's happening in your relation? How are those healing, and what's God doing there?
Well, my kids see how I've changed, and I knew I had to be patient. I have to show them and prove to them, hey, your dad's changed. Your dad's not the same guy anymore. And God gave me the patience to allow them to take time to get to know me again.
Yeah.
So I just persisted in the phone calls. I persisted in seeing them. I would take whatever means I could. The first time I saw my kids after all of this, I borrowed $300 from the church to go see my kids.
Come on.
I borrowed $300. I said, I want to go see my kids. They all got together. They pulled together. And they gave me $300 so I could afford to go down to South Padre Island and see my kids where they were at. It was a cry fest, you know.
Yeah.
And they could feel it that I had changed. They could sense that I had changed. You know, I wasn't drinking anymore. My eyes were clear. You know, I was a better person than I was, you know, in the past. And they knew it. They saw me drunk. They saw me getting angry. They saw me, you know. I think that's one of the reasons why I left to begin with, because I knew I was tearing my family apart.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, way to go, repairing. Way to go, not giving up. If there's folks out there that are in their 60s and they think it's too late for me, it's not.
No way, dude.
And
It's never too late.
never. The Redeemer is the Redeemer. That name never changes, of our God. And want to encourage you to listen to Rob's words. Rob, you're on a heck of a trajectory right now in your 60s. Some people are playing golf and they've moved to Arizona to enjoy the weather and get away from a career, a stress. You're in the middle of rebuilding and transforming and living your best life. In my words, what's going on now? What are you doing? What is the warrior's way? I see this Spartan-like shield and this helmet on your shirt and on your hat. What's going on? Where are you going?
Well, Warrior's Way, I developed that because I wanted to show other people it's not too late. It's only too late when they're throwing dirt on top of the box. You know what I'm
Come
saying?
on. Yes.
That's the only time it's too late. And I look at it this way. I still have 30 good years at least to make a big difference in people's lives, right?
Yes, sir.
So Warrior's Way, and my motto is victory comes to those who are willing to fight to the end. Okay? Never give up. That's what you lose when you give up, man. Fail, get up, and keep going. Fall down, get up, keep going. Don't give up. Don't give up. And that's what my motto is. That's what I try to help people. I try to encourage people to keep going, pushing forward. Instant gratification is a killer. Man, don't look for instant gratification. Think of it this way. What you become along the journey, that's your reward. That's the amazing part of it, is becoming and transforming into something different than you are, something better. You know, it's not what the end result. The end result really never comes because you never stop going. You never stop improving. It's that what you become along the way, and you see the transformation in yourself, man. The instant gratification is a killer. That's why people quit and they fail.
So, Warrior's Way, if I want help, if I need help changing my mindset, not quitting, can I call you? Are you there to help people, train them physically? What's your go-to in how you're helping people today?
Mindset starts with you becoming better physically, because once you become better physically, chemical reactions happen in the brain which cause you to be more positive. You're looking at yourself in a more positive light. You're doing things positively. You're finishing, you're accomplishing your exercises, your tasks that you need to do, which reinforces your discipline. And so, I don't know where I was going with that. Again, I'm ADD, man, but I get so excited about talking that you just have to maintain and not give up, man.
And how do you and Rob, if I want help from you, if a listener says, "Man, I can relate to Rob. I've been in prison, or I did this, or I'm living a comeback story." How do I get hold of you? Can I look up Warrior's Way? How do I get in touch?
I have a website, but I really haven't been utilizing the website. I just go to Rob Pemco Fitness, ROBPEMCO Fitness,
Yep.
on my Instagram, or you can go on my Facebook, Rob Pem, Warriors Way 62 on Facebook. Yeah.
And you're going to help me not only build my body, change my mindset, but you help people walk with the Lord too. You have a testimony that's powerful, and I just wanted to call that out. When I listen to your story and we talk on the phone, I'm a better man because I know that transformation um, on the outside is one thing, but on the inside, it's a whole another thing that keeps giving. And I just want to thank you for your willingness to share your journey because it helps others to change their inside as well and to walk with God.
Well, Brian, you've been an inspiration to me too, brother. I mean, you're a strong man of God, and I know I can call you whenever I need to. I know that hey, if I'm feeling bummed, I can call Brian. Brian's always there. Yeah, I love
Well,
you, dude. You're an amazing guy. I appreciate you very much, man.
well, Rob, we appreciate you. Parting shots. We're going to wrap this up in about an hour, but anything else you want to let folks know? You've led us down a quick journey of highlights and lowlights and comeback stories. But anything else you want to share?
Yeah. If you're going through situations where it seems, man, life sucks. Life is so hard. It's unbearable. Stick it out. Get through it, man. Just and seek help. Find somebody that can help you. Talk to somebody about it. Don't just go through this stuff yourself, man. Get into the word. If you're not into that right now, get with somebody who is and let them talk to you about it. Like God's a gentleman. He's not going to force himself down anyone's throat. I don't force God down anyone's throat. But what I do is I just try to lead by example and show them this is what God's done for me.
Yes.
Okay? I'm not a preacher. I'm not a teacher. But this is what God did for me. And he'll do it for you if you'll allow him to. But just don't give up. If you're going through hard times, don't give up. Seek help. It's out there, brother. All you got to do is look.
Rob, on that note, that is a great way to wrap this up. Don't go alone. Seek help. Get some guys around you who know what's going on. Get coached up. Rob, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on Iron Bison. We're going to do this again. But thank you for today.
Amen, brother. I appreciate you. Love you, Brian.
Okay. Love you, son. See you, bud.
All right, brother.